was scheduled for today. Courtyard Newland, exceptional author from England, could not make it. He's in bed sick. He was infected and his wife as well with COVID. They're doing okay. Got a lot of good wishes already from the community. So that means that he will get better a lot sooner because we here at the Second Life Book Club, we care for him so much. Now, Courtney Newland came on my radar. I forgot how, but he wrote a novel called A River Called Time, which completely blew me away. And I believe it came out in 2020. I read it in 2021. Courtney was on the show a year ago, pretty much a year ago, and we built this place here that is behind me for the for his first appearance. A River Called Time is a sprawling novel. I think it has like 500 plus pages, and it is about a huge mega city that is completely enclosed in a near future scenario where there is a lot of environmental damage, and the people in this sort of air conditioned arc city, they live there, they work there. It's a privately built city with the promises of great job opportunities and services, and all this kind of falls by the wayside. So the whole um, very unequal society is that we have in the physical world right now is a reality also in this future. And the crazy thing about this novel is that the main protagonist can travel up and down the river of time, and not only in time but also with his own reality. So he becomes a different version of himself. In one version, he is kind of a freedom fighter, a revolutionary, and in this other reality of this stream, he is a fairly well-adjusted middle-class journalist that works for the corporate media. And anyways, Courtyard Newland, A River Called Time, awesome, awesome book, and the location is still here. So if you want to visit, but Courtyard was scheduled to come today for his new book, which is a collection of short stories called Cosmogramma. And the book stands here behind me. So, just a few words about Cosmogramma before we go into the cafe and do our special free for all show with no guest, just you, the community. Cosmogramma, I just finished it today, is an amazing collection of very, very open ended stories that just brim with creativity and imagination. There's a story of two scuba divers who discover an underwater society that asks them to stay with them and breed because their gene pool underwater there is confined. There's a story about a spaceship that goes into the multiverse and goes back in time to the time of slavery, and the people from the future say we're not going to go back, we're going to actually fight against slavery right now here in the late 1800s, also around the time of the Haitian Revolution. There is a story about a zombie type virus where people could either go psycho or uh uh well, they could either be mean zombies or nice zombies, and you don't know which one is which, so you gotta chain them against the wall in the basement. There's story after story. I'm just flipping through here. In the book, there is a story about a group of young folks that can, through telekinetic powers, influence other people. What they do, they influence a woman with their mental powers to go to the ATM and take out money and give it to a homeless guy. Anyway, Courtney Newland, incredible, incredible creative mind, and we wish him all the best. Get over the COVID thing as soon as he can. But do pick up the um, pick up the book. We have feedback on YouTube where folks say that I'm very, very low in sound. So please do bring me up and maybe Isabel, who's running the camera, can also bring me up because I see myself fully broadcasting here. Now let's go into teleporting machine. I'm not going to teleport to my other astral body. I'm just going to teleport to the cafe, and I'll see you at the cafe. All right, so I hope that people can hear me better. Again, I see very good sound here. I cannot evaluate YouTube, unfortunately, as I'm moderating this. So Isabel is saying the sound is fine. So please dial me up. And here we are at the cafe. Hello and welcome, everybody. Let me go on stage here. So we have a free for all today, which means that anything goes, any topic goes. I do have a few prompts here. Just going to throw them out. And as you know, I talk a lot, but I will stop talking if you interrupt me. So everybody has the uh, the freedom or the license to interrupt me if you have something to say on the subject matter. Now, a bunch of prompts that came to my mind today were let's talk about what book have you not read which will surprise people. So this could be a book um, that everybody has read or pretends that they have read, right? And you haven't, and you are, maybe you don't care, but maybe you're slightly embarrassed that you never bring it up. Now is the time to bring it up. I will bring up two books. I will confess. So I will confess to two books that are insanely popular, but I have not read. Another prompt um, is a book that you love that others hate or that you know that they hate, and whoever they is, right? They could be, I don't know, a consensus in society of some sort, or your friends or your family, or people at your job or whatever, or your parents. And then another prompt is, what book do you hate that is universally loved? And by hate is maybe not the right word, but maybe something that you struggled with, that defeated you. You were defeated by this book, right? And so I will also check out here. I will monitor the YouTube. Welcome, Kitten Duo, Kitten, here from the member of the Draxtor YouTube community. Welcome, Kitten. Everybody on YouTube can chime in as well with these prompts. And the last one is, what book, and this is a very typical thing, what book would you not live without? Um, Now, a few things, and I will also do a reading today, and you may guess what from what book I will be reading because there's a dead giveaway here in the back. Um, a collage that Shyla made, and Shyla is here in the audience. So if anybody wants to speak up about these prompts and wants to come on stage and talk about the book that they have not read, which will surprise people, something that is maybe insanely popular, or in their own circle of friends, just popular in their circle of friends. And the other one was, what book do you love that other people hate? And what book do you hate or struggle with that other people loved? All right. And if nobody wants to speak or go up on stage, just push me out of the way, then I will answer. Jessica
I
says Ulysses.
yeah, I agree on all.
This is this is quite tragic to me because I think Ulysses is absolute work of genius. Do you want to I'm still going to remain your friend, Jessica. But Jessica, you want to elaborate a little bit? And if you can't use voice, don't worry about it. Type in text, and I will read it. I will read.
You know me, I can talk. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, Ulysses, the big problem. I have several copies. I have had several copies.
Hmm.
If I dip in, and I did it tonight before the show, I dipped in and I read the Molly Bloom bit at the back, and I loved it. I loved the
Hmm.
writing. I love everything, but I can't get through the book.
Hmm.
And every few years I try and I try and I try, and I can't. And I'm desperate because I must read it.
Hmm.
James Joyce will never forgive me. Um, it's just defeating me, and nothing else has ever defeated me, except The Clockwork Orange, which I
Oh,
loathe
you,
and detest.
at least you loathe a
So
book that I have not recommended, which is good. That gets me off the hook, Jessica. But Jessica, let me ask you a question here because this is really interesting. Because you feel compelled that you want to read it. This is something that I mean, what I hear you say is this is something that you want to actually like, and then you start and you cannot continue. Oh my God, Ruby, don't say. I'm not going to read what you just said because this is partially my confession later. The YouTube stream, they don't see the chat, so that's good. But Jessica, let me ask you, have you considered with these big books, because I do want to get into this a little bit as well. I discovered a new booktube channel that you guys will love. With the big books, I'm sure you agree, you have to set aside, almost you have to I mean, at least I feel like that. You have to kind of schedule it. You have to set aside time, um, either a bunch of weeks that you say, I'm going to focus on this book and I break it up like this. And you have to start, when you start a book like this, a big one, you have to read, I think, at least 50, if not 70 pages in one sitting to kind of really get into the world. Otherwise, if you just start with little snippets, you will never get through it. But what would you say? Question number one, would you agree on these sort of like little tricks and helper thingies? And question number two, why do you think, if you love it, why is it defeating you?
I love everything else he's written. I love it. And every time I dip
Aha.
into the book and read bits of it, I love it. I don't know whether it's the lack of punctuation, but I mean, I'm a woman who's read War and Peace
Hmm. So
and
it's
all
not
of.
like you're shying away of complex,
No.
sprawling, big worlds. Hmm.
And all of Lord of the Rings several
Hmm.
times. So big books don't frighten me. Middlemarch, that didn't frighten me either. Uh, I don't know why. I'm cross with myself. I've been on Bloomsday events. I
Hmm.
don't know if everybody knows what they are, but being in part of a
What are they?
department, well, it's when you recreate Leo Bloom's day. You,
Hmm.
there are events and readings and lots of alcohol. Um, Universities tend, departments of literature do them, and I've been involved in them. So I know what's going on, but I cannot read the whole book. So help me.
So
Um,
the Bloomsday, just real quick, the Bloomsday is on June 16th, I believe, where Ulysses is set on one day,
that's
June 16th,
it.
1904. And so the super fans are celebrating this, I guess, around the world, or maybe probably most prominently in Ireland and Dublin, where James Joyce is.
It's a big thing in Australia.
Wow.
Um,
Oh,
but
the Australians, they like anything that involves drinking, I guess. So,
oh,
sorry, that's a
Drax.
cliche. As a Bavarian, I am allowed to play with cliches like this.
True. No, I I don't know why. I don't know why I can't read it. But I mean, tonight, knowing the question you was going to ask, I read the Molly Bloom bit at the back, which
Hmm.
generally was the problem why it got banned. And yeah, so help.
If anybody else wants to chime in, um, I'm just sorry. One quick thing. I just checked the sound volume of myself on YouTube, and it's perfectly fine, folks. I don't see a problem with it. So please do bring it up. And I believe that our esteemed tech guru Isabel has surely checked the OBS settings. So I just checked here on my monitor. It's just fine. It's a normal volume. Uh, Now, Bunny, you wanted to chime in with Ulysses.
Yeah,
You want to add something?
yeah, I've been trying to read that one for ages, but the funny thing is, Jessica said Middlemarch,
Hmm.
and Middlemarch took me 25 years to finally finish reading it.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, I had to read it at university, never finished it. And a few years ago, I really went like, okay, I want to finish it because I constantly stopped because I found Fred Vinci completely irritating. Jessica knows the name.
Hmm.
And eventually, I just went like, okay, I will just read 50 pages a day. So if
Hold on. Who is that? And he's a character,
yeah,
and you didn't like that character?
no, and that he. I mean, there are so many others that I could hate in that book, like Casaubon. I mean, the old guy who marries a young girl. But one way or another, I always had difficulties with Fred Vinci, and eventually I
Hmm.
just let that go and I started reading it. Took it on the train with me, 50 pages a day, and eventually I started to love it. And I still hope that that's going to happen with Ulysses.
So this is, you said, two interesting things, and maybe people want to chime in. This is really well said. I think the two things that can prevent us from loving a book can be a specific character that we find nauseating, alienating, offensive, or just plain dumb. And at least I sometimes what really I have a problem with is when I otherwise love a book, and I don't see the purpose of a specific annoying character in the larger context, why there's so much emphasis on this character. That annoys me, and then I get thrown out, and I constantly have to think about why is the author giving so much room to this particular jerk. And then that kills the joy for me. But also, Bunny, what you said, and I want to emphasize this because this is the YouTube channel that I discovered, is called Leaf by Leaf. So please take a note, Shyla. Maybe you can Google real quick or check on YouTube, Leaf by Leaf. The guy Chris is hosting, is an amazing host, and he loves big books, and he's from the south, and he speaks in the southern drawl, and it's just absolutely awesome. Here's a little picture of him holding a bookmark. I love big books, and I cannot lie. And what Bunny just said, he actually has a one video where he recommends tips for people who want to read big books, and one of them is you gotta read in chunks of 50 to 70 pages, or at least start with it, right? And that is what I found as well. You have to really set aside the time, especially in the beginning of a big book project, to get into the world. Uh, this is not necessary with, obviously, with short stories and shorter novels, where the exposition um, may not be as long, and you get into the gist of the narrative quicker. But for a big one, this is absolutely super necessary. So yeah. Anybody else want to share a book? Stranger just got here, a book that defeated them, that they couldn't do it. I think Ruby said something interesting.
Can I throw out a book I can't live without to see if everybody else has read it?
Right, we want to do
And
this too.
that's
We
The
want to do
Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern.
Uh-huh. Not familiar with it? Please somebody Google it and put it in the local chat. Night Circus, novel by Erin Morgenstern. Here we go. And you cannot live without it. Why? Jessica? Oops. Did we lose her? Jessica, hello, hello. Why can't you live without Erin Morgenstern? Can Erin Morgenstern live without you? Okay, maybe Jessica crashed. Now we'll never know. I think Jessica was just murdered by Erin Morgenstern in the physical world. Cody, you want to say something? What is the book that defeated you, or what is your favorite book?
My favorite book is The Hard People You Meet in Heaven.
Cody, can you? We will give you time. Can you try to type it into the local chat?
The hard people you meet in heaven. Hey,
Something in heaven. We meet in heaven is what I understood.
the hard people.
Something of heaven.
Cody, I can't make it out. Take your time. Please type it, and we'll discuss it. Please take your time and try to type it in. Cody is typing.
Oh, Cody, is it the 5 people you meet in heaven?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The 5 people you meet in heaven by Mitch Albern. So is that something that you can't live without, or is that something that you hate?
I love it. I love it.
You love it?
It is so good.
Here we go. I'm pasting it in here, and this book is a 2003 novel about. It follows the life and death of a ride mechanic named Eddie who is killed in an amusement park accident and sent to heaven, where he encounters 5 people who had a significant impact on him while he was alive. Oh my God, Cody, this sounds really good. Shit.
Yeah.
I had something else planned for tomorrow, but I guess I got to get that one. That's awesome, Cody.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
It is amazing.
Let me read here from the synopsis a little bit. On Eddie's 83rd birthday, an amusement park ride at Ruby Pier malfunctions due to a damaged cable and stops halfway through the ride. 2 of the staff can rescue the passengers on the ride and then release the ride's cart for inspection. However, Eddie's colleagues are completely oblivious to his screams as he realizes the cart will detach if it is released. Eddie notices a girl he'd seen before at the park, Amy, sitting helplessly in the exact spot the cart was set to impact. Eddie throws himself towards the girl, intending to pull her to safety. Eddie feels an exploding impact, sees a blinding flash, feels a little girl's hand in his, and then nothingness. Eddie then finds himself awake and uninjured and realizes that he feels young, much more energetic. He also feels calm. He meets a man known simply as the Blue Man. Oh my God, this is really good. All right, Cody, oh, that's the author of the international bestseller Tuesdays with Maury, which I actually have in my shelf. But this sounds really, really good. Thank you, Cody. This is an amazing. Is there anything you want to say? Something that you hate?
I hate
Harry Potter?
No.
No, I'm sorry. No. Say it again. I'm listening. I have to ask you to type again, please. And While
Is it
Cody
the
is
heart
typing,
of a woman?
Uh-uh.
No, okay.
okay, Cody is sharing with us the thing that he hates the most. Now, I will confess something.
That's how it does. Like, TikTok never shows like your
I
health
will.
quality.
I will now confess. Cody, mute your mic if you. Oh, the art of the
Yeah.
deal. Oh my God. Okay, the book. I think we can all agree. Actually, this is unfair, Cody, because you know what? Trump didn't write it. It was written by a ghostwriter. Actually, the ghostwriter was interviewed. The Art of the Deal by Donald J. Trump is the book that Cody hates the most. I think we'll get a round of applause. Um, But I heard, I remember Jessica says it's cat litter wrapping. It's not a book, it's cat litter wrapping. I remember I heard an interview with the guy who wrote it. And he was giving interviews and saying like how difficult Trump was, the process. Um, so yeah, so let me repeat here what Cody mentioned: 5 people you meet in heaven. Folks in the YouTube chat, I cannot post it in there as I'm doing a million things here hosting, and but maybe somebody can post that in there. The 5 people you meet in heaven, and people are struggling with Ulysses. Now here's gonna be the big reveal. Are you ready for the big Draxtor reveal? I think I never said this in public, but since our Ruby is so honest, I have to be honest, and I'm gonna put this here on the big board, an image, from my bookshelf, from my real life bookshelf. And what does the image show? You guys see this? It's not resing for me. There it is. It's the Lord of the Rings, my friends. I have struggled with it. I have started it many times. And in the middle of book 2, it just becomes to me, it's just, and again, I am a guy who reads big books. I'm rereading Infinite Jest, Thomas Pynchon from top to bottom. I just find it, it's just incredibly tedious, and I could not connect. And I wanted to love, and I still want to love this book. Matter of fact, as you can see from this copy that I bought in Ireland in 1991 or something, it's really kind of, you know, torn and everything. I had this in Ireland. I took a trip to Ireland and I wanted to read it. I took the book and I sat there in the grass and tried to immerse myself into the story by being sort of like looking over hills, rolling hills and stuff like that. I have the German version, um, and so Ruby says in the chat, "I've tried. I promise I've tried." And same here. I tried many many times. Um, Maybe I should try again, but there's so much other stuff that I want to read, so I'm not sure. And I can't tell you the last time I tried this was in the early 90s, and since then I have not really tried it again. The Hobbit made a huge impact because our art teacher in 6th or 7th grade was reading it um, to us um, while we were painting. So that led, of course, to the Lord of the Rings, and I find it incredible in the beginning, and for some reason, then in the middle, I lost it. Birgit says life is too short to force yourself to read something you do not enjoy. But the thing is, Birgit, and this is this is a difficult thing. I do believe in the work. I believe that something that is nourishing and gives you sustenance is not the same as easy entertainment. So I'm not afraid of difficult books at all, or so-called difficult. I actually find it sometimes offensive when in the public books are being deemed difficult. In a world where streamlined and superficial entertainment rules the day, anything that is not immediately gratifying or grabbing you and is sort of pandering to the lowest common denominator is being deemed difficult. So I'm not afraid of difficult um, books, or books that are challenging, books that demand attention, right? That demand active reading. This, by the way, is so cool about the Leaf by Leaf uh, booktube channel, because he has a method. He puts a lot of sticky notes in there. He just puts sticky while he's reading. He puts sticky notes into the book, and with different colors, and then he goes. He just puts the sticky notes. He doesn't annotate anything. But then he goes back and he looks at the sticky note and looks at the page where the sticky note is. He goes like, "Why did I put a sticky note here? Ah, now I remember." And then he annotates and writes into the book. I find that really, really cool. So I firmly believe a book is something that is to be enjoyed at the deepest level, and that requires work. It's not something that you have on in the background like music or whatever it is. But anyways, for some reason, The Lord of the Rings. Now, Ruby's gonna hate me. I have one more confession. As I walked by the big Draxtor bookshelf, I found this book that I'm putting up on the overhead projector, or on the what do we call this? The board.
The board.
The board. And this book is Harry Potter by one Joanne K. Rowling. This is the German edition, Harry Potter und der Stein der Weisen. I have it in English and in German. This my wife read this to our son. I have not read it. I don't have a. Cody's gonna kill me. What?
It is a very good book.
Oh yeah, actually, I actually think that this is probably a really good book that I might enjoy. But here's the problem. Now that J.K. Rowling has sort of outed herself as a terrible person, I cannot read it without knowing that, right? So I mean, this is actually another subject. Actually, I want to ask this to the crowd here. Can you separate art from the artist? And how do you? Right, I agree. Right. So if you know something about, if an artist is a despicable person or turns out to be, it's hard to go back and enjoy the work. Now the question is this different with writers and musicians? I once made the point that I can enjoy music even if the people are I mean, it really depends. Birgit here is bringing up Bill Cosby. This is really interesting because with Bill Cosby, and there's a great podcast on also Bill Cosby's, impact that he had on the culture with the Cosby Show, and he was sort of the good, the hardworking black father, and he was also really like as a persona, he was so instrumental um, in the larger American society as sort of this role model that was pulled out by parents and teachers alike, and then of course it's revealed what a kind of a monster he is. Um, that is, yeah, he is. I think he's dead. Probably most sensible people, I would say. But then again, somebody like you know Mike Oldfield, the musician Mike Oldfield was pro Brexit and also a Trump supporter, and that really depressed me quite a bit because I was a huge Mike Oldfield fan growing up. But I think with authors, book authors, novelists, writers, I think it's even worse when they reveal themselves as, you know, um, in their views, with very misogynistic views, and in their conduct. If their conduct is problematic, in any way, shape, or form, I think with writers it's worse because they are supposed to be uh, very, very attuned to morality and ethical behavior in the context of the worlds that they're building. So they're not just musicians writing a cool riff, right? So that's, I guess that's my point. If a musician is kind of an a-hole, or like, Slayer, I'm a big metal fan, and Tom Araya from Slayer has kind of questionable political views, but I can forgive it. I mean, he's an idiot politically, but he still writes good riffs. But if Tom Araya from Slayer would write children's books, I would think differently about that, because you're transporting just much more. There's much more weight in creating a world with people in it that have relationships. You're commenting on, you're making a point about society, that is more impactful than when you just write good uh, metal riffs.
But
Anyway,
that
what
would
were the
almost
yeah,
apply to actors too. And I have to be
yeah,
honest,
good point.
I do have a hard time, uh, with certain. Cosby is one, Mel Gibson is another,
Right, but
and
Mel Gibson is also a. Shala, I don't want to cut you off, but Mel Gibson, would you think differently if Mel Gibson would just be an actor because he's also a director?
no,
Yeah.
no, I don't think so. I think it's, um, and there are lots of people watch him, which is fine. Like, I don't have any trouble with somebody who does want to watch him. I can't.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
Like these inferior intellect people from the South who easily fell prey to sirens, false propaganda and so forth. He was a racist, and it's a
Oh
racist
my,
book.
stranger,
Yeah.
stranger. No, you're totally absolving me now. Now I'm not gonna read it.
I suggest you read it because it's probably the best book ever written. It's amazing. And most of it's morally uplifting. It's a morally uplifting book. But he had that problem. He grew up with these
I,
ideas, and they even show up in his writing. But
yeah, but that's my point, because that's pretty significant. And I know there's an argument of, okay, well, at the time, this was sort of a general viewpoint, and there's a lot of scientists were also subscribing to that view, people who otherwise contributed tremendously to public knowledge and to the furthering of knowledge and literature and art and so on and so forth. And they held these views because they didn't reflect on them, because at the time this was sort of the prevailing view in society. Um, I'm not sure. I have a problem with that. Straight. You're making a fantastic point. Um, and this is an ongoing discussion. Again, can you separate art from artists? And I have to say, pretty category that I really cannot. I have a problem. I envy people who can, like you were saying, stranger. Mel Gibson, being a fine actor. I cannot enjoy his work, knowing his views and where he comes from. He's not responsible for his
pretty
father's
strange
Holocaust
Well, and I
survival.
pretty
think
strange,
that.
pretty strange
Oh,
limitations
sorry.
put upon yourself. I mean,
I don't know.
He's
I
in
don't know.
movies. He's in movies that are good movies where the role he plays is, is
I think it's a personal decision. I think
questionable.
maybe
Yep.
respecting
I
people's
think
personal. That's
so
what I
too.
say. I
Yep.
have no problem with people.
I bet I
It's
could
just
spoil
not
every movie
something.
in the world for you by finding
What movies has
finding out the
Mel
bad
Gibson
news
been
and all
in?
the
Where
Hold
he's
good
hold
very
on.
stuff
much.
and
Hold on. I hear there's a lot of noise coming. Hold on. One
What
at a
what
time.
movies has Mel
Cube, I
Gibson
can't.
been in? What movies
Cube, I
has
can't.
Mel Gibson been in which are
I
like G?
Cube, I cannot understand you. We need to make sure that we understand people because it's very hard for people hard of hearing. We have
Oh,
people
okay.
who are actually deaf, and they're watching this, and the translation, the auto caption of YouTube is amazing, but there has to be. So if you could type your question, I can read it, but I need to be mindful of people with hearing issues. We have to make sure that people can hear us. Um, so I didn't want to cut Stranger off, but I do think it's a personal decision. I'm just saying this is my personal thing. I just can't do it. Another example is Ender's Game, which is an amazing book about anti-militarist book. Um, Orson Scott Card is a major homophobe. He doesn't hold back. His views are out there. Keeps he's still alive and he's on social media and he's not holding back. It's I don't know. So I'm not disagreeing with you, Strange, because the point is that this is a personal decision, and I guess that's what we're talking about.
well,
Do
the
we
last
lose
point I was
something?
saying is I'll bet I could find out some bad fact about it, some actor in damn near every movie you love and ruin them for you then, because people are
Yeah, but that's
people and
not
they
the.
have their
But
bad
that's
sides, but
that's. But Stranger, there. I think. Well, I have to disagree with you because there is a gradient. I mean, you know there are grades of views. Holocaust denial is active Holocaust denial, and somebody who likes the free market or something. I mean, those are two very different things. And when we're talking about Mel Gibson, and I really don't want to derail this conversation to movies, this is a book club. Mel Gibson made the movie about Jesus Christ is incredibly problematic. I'm not talking about an actor who is talented and who just says lines that somebody else writes. I'm talking about someone who writes lines and makes movies, so that's very different. Cube Republic, this has nothing to do with cancel culture at all. This is a critique and sort of a moral stance that somebody has. So, I'm not a fan of Holocaust denial, just to pick one issue. So I'm not interested in engaging with people who subscribe to these views. Now, having squelched that discussion, Cody. Cody, I also have to ask you to type. Cody, when we spend time together, then it's like a switch comes on. When I talk to you more and listen to you more, it takes me about 15 minutes, and then I understand you totally, and it's awesome. But right now we haven't spoken in a while, and now I still that part of my brain is a little slow. I would also have to ask you to type. Um, I want to share something real quick. I bought a watch. Here it is on the big board. This is a watch I bought it for 29 bucks. It's a Casio watch. Now, why did I buy it? Because I watched this Leaf by Leaf booktube book review channel, and the guy was talking about tricks where you in today's world. Oh, Cody, have you read Mein Kampf? Mein Kampf? You mean like Hitler's Mein Kampf? I'll talk about this in a second. But why did I buy a watch? This I learned from this Leaf by Leaf guy because he was talking about the challenge of today's world that is, of course, ubiquitous availability, distractions nonstop, and the phone being one of them. And the biggest thing that I realized this sort of for some time. I use my phone as a alarm clock and even to time my Pomodoro spouts of concentrated work. And the problem with the phone is that it has multiple other things on it. So when the alarm goes off, it is hard even for someone with my willpower and my dedication to the to work and discipline to not jump on uh, Twitter, check emails, and so on and so forth. So now what I'm going to do is to take the phone and put it in phone jail at a specific point in time in the evening and take it out at a specific point in the morning. But I will have a time where the phone is in jail. And the other thing that I need is basically an alarm clock to get up in the morning, and that's what this um, watch is for. What does this have to do with books? The Leaf by Leaf YouTube booktuber guy says when you read, set aside a time for only reading and put the phone and every other digitally connected device into another room. Don't even have it on the table. Don't have it near you, not in the same room. It has to be in a different room. And I will start doing that. I've put the phone away, but it was still on the same table. I'm fairly disciplined with reading. I have my reading times in the morning, in the evening, and the midday, but the phone is still in its vicinity. And I found out that that this is really the key to just put the phone in jail. End of story. Jessica is mentioning again Stolen Focus by Johan Hari. I recommend How to Do Nothing. Please, Shala, maybe you can find these two links. How to Do Nothing is by Jenny Odell. She was guest on the book club. It's an amazing book, probably in the same vein. How to Resist the Attention Economy. Now, Cody, I don't know if you mean the book Mein Kampf, which is My Struggle by Karl Ove Knausgaard. That is actually on my reading list. This is supposedly an absolutely amazing work, and it's been on my radar for a long time. Or if you mean Hitler's Mein Kampf. So that I don't know. Hitler's Mein Kampf, actually, my parents have it. It's in the bookshelf. I think they gave it away to my grandparents when they got married in 32, 33. Cody means Hitler. I haven't read it, but that is actually a great question because I really do want to read it. I actually find it quite important um, to read the original work by authoritarian genocidal maniacs. I actually find it quite informative to get into the head of the originators of such a completely inhumane design of society, Hitler and others. So, sir, I'm gonna look at the YouTube chat real quick, and people can interrupt me in voice if they want. Please do. Sir Sully says, I agree at times that it's hard to separate writers and their works. My point, the Jurassic Park series, can we put the kids away too? I'm not sure, sir, what you're referring to here with the Jurassic Park series. But I'm also another confession. I haven't watched Jurassic Park ever. So welcome, Airbus. Let me look through the local chat here. Airbus says, I bet you can even see the time on it. Yes, Airbus, that was the point. No, Airbus, you know, again, with the watch, it really, we're talking specifically about carving out time that is separated for engaging with text, for engaging also with text that may be challenging, where other things are enticing, where entertainment is enticing. The brain is susceptible to the brain wants to have it easy, just like the body, right? If you work out, you much rather stay in bed, but you got to work out. And to me, if reading is work, I think that is incredibly nourishing. But the temptation is there. And difficult text and long text requires to be engaged and to not let yourself be dissuaded by a little lull, right? Because texts that stay with you, dense texts where the writer wants to do wants to give you a little bit more nourishment than just a fun romp or a quick, I don't know, um, detective story or a crime story. Jessica, who writes crime stories. So yeah.
Oh, Drax. Oh, detective story, well, murders, they're hard. Writing crime is hard. I've written 1,300 words today, and I'm really, really bad-tempered and cross because I went back and looked at them and thought, this is shocking, this is awful. What would Dan Brown do, I thought. They ain't easy. They're a genre which you spend a lot of time researching. I don't know whether you've seen the discussion on Twitter about which watch list are you on because of your research.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably on a few because I've been researching handguns, sniper rifles.
Oh, I see. Like when you're
Poisons.
talking about
Yeah.
when a writer is writing a story and you do internet research about certain murders or certain ways to get murdered, the FBI or other agencies in other countries may actually you come across their desk is I guess what you're saying. Like, look, this person is researching how to
Yeah.
kill someone with a handgun for 2 weeks. What's going
Yeah.
on?
And
Yeah.
I've had it happen in Sydney, working for Sydney Theatre Company, researching Chechnya for a play.
Oh.
And we got a bit of a call to say, what are you guys doing? No, we're
Like
writing
that
a
was
play.
what that's in the 90s when
Yeah.
actually in Chechnya the bombs went off. When was that? 99 in the apartment building, which is
Yep.
pretty clearly planted by
Anna
the Russians.
Polskaya.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was scary. But we were researching a play, and I often wonder who's watching me when I'm going online and trying to find out how much it costs to buy an illegal handgun
Hmm.
in Gibraltar. So crime fiction, yeah, and you've got a plot. I mean, plotting is hard. If your time frame goes all wrong, and
Hmm.
if you're in a real place and you send them up the wrong street, yeah, it's sometimes I wish I could go back to magic realism where I could do what I wanted, but crime is where I am. It's
In magic realism, you also have to fall. It's not a free for all, right? I mean,
no, you've
you
got
have
your
to have rules,
conventions, but
right?
crime is very, very hard for the plotting, and of
Hmm.
course you are not responsible for the terrible acts that your characters commit.
Hmm.
I've been reading Patricia Highsmith, who was a bit of a horror story, but her writing is sublime.
Hmm.
Um, she's the talented Mr. Ripley writer.
I have her in the shelf. What's her? Is there another? Is there another? Is Patricia Highsmith another writer that we now need to cancel? What do you mean
Uh,
horror story? What did she do?
she's got some pretty peculiar views
About the
um,
Holocaust?
about no, but
Woohoo!
she was
Dodged that one.
of her time, as we say.
Hmm.
Um,
Black
but
people.
her writing is, yeah, her writing is wonderful.
I'm scrolling back through the chat. Jessica, I don't want to interrupt. Please continue later. Stranger says the best detective writers were psychologically deep and thought provoking as well. Ruby says here very early on, music and visual media somehow can disappear faster from memory, but books remain written and it's easier to go back and maybe keep digging, make notes, etc. But I may be just making all these excuses to myself. I'm not sure what excuses you're making because you're making a very important point, and this is also made by the Leaf by Leaf guy. You will love this YouTube channel, Ruby, because he talks about the act of reading, and I talk about this too a lot. Act of reading for us to decode basically letters and symbols on a page, like they're symbols and the symbols transform in our brain into a rich, retextured world with colors, with smells, with all sorts of things. And it's our world. It's the world that we create. It's not the world that a talented visual artist created for us. And again, I'm not knocking. I don't want to knock the visual audiovisual arts at all. But reading is something very, very different. And I would argue, as many do, that it is by far the superior way of finding out about the human condition and finding out about what it is to live second lives and third lives. Actually, I'm looking for a quote here because in the YouTube channel, these guys were talking about in the Leaf by Leaf channel, and the one guy was saying like, why do you actually read? And the other guy was saying, well, reading is the best way to avoid people and still get to live multiple lives. And I was going to say, well, you could do that in Second Life with alts, I guess. I'm looking for the specific quote because that was just absolutely brilliant. Shiloh says here, did you consider the works by author E.R. Edison? I don't know in what context that is. We had a bunch of prompts. Please refresh my memory what the context was. Birgit Bloom says, I have had real life teachers who I found later abused fellow students. It spoiled what I learned from him. Absolutely. You know, this is a good example. I mean, it's not confined to artists. I mean, you have people that you look up to, and they reveal themselves to be, frankly, monsters. It is very difficult to reconcile. And Ruby and I had this discussion about J.K. Rowling. A lot of Harry Potter fans are really, really dismayed for whom Harry Potter was a seminal coming of age story in their own coming of age. And then the creator of that world has also revealed herself as really problematic person. Yes, Cody. Yes. I'm not going to spend time uh on my program here on the book club to rehash what J.K. Rowling has said. It's pretty well documented, you know how? Because she's still saying it. So you go out there, you check what she says, and if you're fine with her views, you know, that's your prerogative. I find her, um, to be quite honest, a despicable human being. There's no need um, to publicly say what she says, especially not at her level. It's actually quite mesmerizing. Not mesmerizing. It is disturbing to see someone at that level uh, of of fame to kind of sort of destroy her her legacy like that. That is interesting. I mean, that it really shows you kind of the character. I think that makes it arguably worse. So the quote that wanted to find here, these guys from Leaf to Leaf, here it is. The one guy, Chris, was asking the other guy, I forgot his name, on the show, why do you read? And the other guy from another podcast, which is called Better Than Food, Shala, please find out Better Than Food. He says, why do you read? And he answers, to experience the joys of people while actively avoiding them. So I think that's just awesome. Let me actually find this link here. Now, we still do we still have voice problems here? I hope not. When I wrap up the show tied today, I had a reading planned, but the reading is fairly long, and the reading is from my absolute favorite book, hands down. The first person who guesses what that book is, my favorite book, the first person who puts the book title into the local chat will win a Second Life baseball hat that says "Make Second Life Great Again." It's a $10 Linden value. Don't tell me that I never give you anything. Now, there's a bunch of clues in this room that will show you the way. Ruby says, so tempting. Ruby, come on, you can do it. If nobody steps up to the plate, I mean, it's really obvious. Uh, the clues are in this room. The clues are right here in front of you. Uh, Spoiler alert: it's not Lord of the Rings because I couldn't pick it because I haven't finished it. And Stranger, I will finish it. Okay, let me look at the chat. Who was first? Tsai is first. Tsai has won. Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. Infinite Jest is an absolutely brilliant book. It's a big book that you should not be afraid of. It's a book that will nourish you, a book that you will reread. I'm reading it for the third time. Actually read it in the short-lived virtual world Sansar live for an hour each. This is my David Foster Wallace shelf. I also have the German version, Unendlicher Spaß. Infinite Jest came out in 1996, and it is, to my knowledge, and there's a consensus among readers from all walks of life and scholars, that you have a book here that describes the modern American life of this schizophrenia of the pursuit of happiness and the hollowness that we feel despite accomplishments. The plot is crazy, but what is more important, Infinite Jest gives voice to underprivileged people, and it takes them very seriously. The the plot in broad strokes is there's an elite tennis academy in Boston, and there's a halfway house with homeless people, alcoholics, people down on their luck, and it juxtaposes these two worlds: the one with these young tennis prodigies who are pushed there to perform by their parents that live a life of privilege but also of enormous anxiety. And then on the other hand, people in the halfway house who struggle every day with addiction. And the book talks about addiction. It talks about the ubiquity and the destructive nature of superficial entertainment, of the infantilizing nature of that entertainment. It's multi-layered. It's amazing. Yes, it's 1,000+ pages plus 300 pages footnotes, but it is so hilarious. And if you read it 50 pages at a time, you will laugh out loud and you will enjoy it. And you just have to kind of go in there and read it, and you will be transformed. The biggest problem with the book as it stands today, I think, is the reputation that the book has as sort of a bro literature for some reason. There's a really interesting talk from the St. Louis Public Library, a scholar who talks about the backlash that the marketing campaign produced in the public perception. And the public perception is that this is sort of a pretentious book that a lot of young white males put on their shelf to impress the ladies. The book was marketed relentlessly by the machine, and it's ironic because the book is also about the machine and how detrimental and destructive that machine is. And of course, the machine doesn't care because the machine needs to sell books. So the public perception and how it's situated in popular culture with some folks has not done this book any favors, in the sense that when you recommend it to some people who will enjoy it and will get a lot out of it, they may regurgitate something that they heard or read somewhere, like, oh yeah, this is just for bros or whatever. It's actually really interesting that the perception of Infinite Jest in a broader popular culture is very similar to the perception of Second Life, right? I mean, this actually just occurred to me. This is actually very similar. Second Life, you have something, you have a world. Let me finish this thought, Cody, and then I'll let you speak. But Second Life, you have something that is such an open, wonderful world of community and creative endeavors and people who express themselves and are able to engage in an authentic community, and the public perception is that that's a haven for crazy sex fiends. And so Infinite Jest is there is a similarity to what the book actually is, which is a just a very critical but also very funny take on modern American life. Um, Actually, I don't I want to take this back. Of course, it's an American author, and it plays in Boston. It plays in the American context, but it's actually very universal. The issues that are described here, right? So the pursuit of I don't know, to live a fulfilled life, and just the failure, uh, the challenge and the failure of trying to achieve that goal. Hello, John Elfbiter. Uh, Cube, you were saying like, oh yeah, you're in Brazil. Pick it up used, man. Pick it up used. You're fine. I mean, in Germany, I can buy it used for, it's a big book. It's huge, so the price is bigger. But Cube, I guarantee you, you will enjoy this book. I guarantee you. It's really about, and Leaf by Leaf has a great take on it. And I think Leaf by Leaf or some other reviewer says, it's essentially about pain. It is about pain. Everybody in this book experiences pain, and again, from very different angles. The addicts, the alcoholics, the people who abuse all sorts of prescription drugs have their uh, pain to deal with, but also these elite athletes here, these youngsters in the tennis academy, have to deal with pain. Very, very different. And then there's all sorts of other characters around. There is a levitating Buddhist tennis coach who is in the sauna, but he's so smart, so wise that he levitates. There is a radio host who calls herself Madame Psychosis. There's of course the father of Hell, who is a avant-garde filmmaker who cannot connect to his teenage son, and then he dresses up like as a woman and tries to find ways to connect with his son by pretending he's somebody else. So it's deep. Cube says I've been addiction free for years now. Would be interested to look from the Cube. You will the biography of David Foster Wallace. There's a lot of addiction in his biography. I would encourage you, Cube, to read it. I mean, it's up to you. Sometimes it's detrimental. We just talked about it earlier. Detrimental to dive into the biography of someone, especially if that person has problematic views. Uh, again, again, in my case, I just can't reconcile it. I can tell you that David Foster Wallace, his life had depression and addiction, um, played big parts. It's difficult to reduce. Some reviewers reduce, of course, a work based on just knowing like these little tidbits. That's something I always find really frustrating. And sometimes readers, when I find I find a biography interesting, but I like to do this afterwards. Anyways, Elfbiter, what is saying? I tend to get my physical books from antiquarian bookstores. Great. Also, library discards. Yes, Elfbiter, this is really great. You go to libraries, what they discard, you find treasures. Um, Also, in America, they have the little free library. In Germany, they also have. Oh, we're getting cool. We'll get the trolls in right when we're gonna wrap it. I think I did not shut build off. So we got something nice. We got a griefer. So we're gonna wrap it. And big thanks to Kitten Duo. Thank you so much for your support of this show. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope that Kitten will make it. Oh, this is really cool. We got some rainbow colors. Oh, this is awesome. I think that will piss off J.K. Rowling quite a bit. Now, big thanks to the audience here and everybody spoke up or who didn't. And thank you, Kitten Do, again for your support of the channel and for your super chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sorry for the sound. The sound in using SL Voice is sometimes a little bit problematic. SL Voice can be a little wonky, also sometimes heard from the camera position. But that's it. Next week we're back to the normal time. Oh yeah, please tip if you have money lying around in your pockets there. Please put it into the tip jar. So I'm not going to read from Infinite Jest. I'm going to read on the next free for all. Couple of housekeeping notes real quick. My feature-length documentary is in the works. I'm a little stressed out about the detail. I still have time, but there is a lot of work to be done, and so there will be a bunch of free-for-alls. If somebody wants to host a free-for-all, please contact me privately, and we'll talk about it. So you welcome to do that. We'll arrange it. But if nobody comes forward, I will host a free-for-all. But I basically did not book guests for 3 weeks before the premiere, which is April 2nd, of the movies called Virtual Cultures in Pandemic Times, 2-year project, research project that I'm following around. And so that's that. Please consult the calendar. We're back at 12 o'clock normal time. This was an exception today. The free-for-alls will also be at 12. Next week, we have a legitimate author, and his name is Jackson Ford, and he's awesome. Jackson Ford, let me actually get the titles right, because he wrote a series that is billed as Alias meets X-Men, and the books are called The Girl Who Could Move Shit with Her Mind. The second book in the Frost Files series is Random Shit Flying Through the Air. Book number 3 is called Eye of the Shitstorm. And book number 4 is called A Shitload of Crazy Powers. So this sounds really, really, really fun. And I onboarded Jackson in Second Life. Was a lot of fun. He's a really fun guy. He got Second Life right away. I got him a skateboard, and we were skating around. So not every author is comfortable with SL. It's of course my job in the onboarding to make the guest comfortable. So that that we can focus on the conversation, and sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's a little bit more challenging. But with Jackson, it was really easy, so that was cool. That's it. I think we're gonna wrap it, and I'll keep my Infinite Jest reading for next time. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for coming, and thanks to the team, Shyla, Ruby, and Isabel. Now I'm gonna go and burn a copy of the